And his legacy is written in stone. He cannot avoid it. Donald Trump, it's unavoidable. He will go down as the worst president in the history of the United States of America of all time. It's unavoidable. He's already got his, they can make the plaque already, put it up there, wherever that plaque goes. It's been written. He can't avoid it now. He thinks he's going to get his face on Mount Rushmore next to Abe Lincoln. No,
he really thought that. He really thought that this war against
absolutely.
Iran going to bring that to him.
Yeah, a golden statue. So that's the reality. So it's cut your losses. That's the political reality, and that's not a mode that Trump has been used to. In the last year and a half, he's been able to get his way, and now the blowback has happened. And not only that, if the blowback is severe, then other Trump allies will fall by the wayside, and he'll become more and more isolated. And that's a very, very ugly and uncomfortable position to be in as a U.S. president. And that's kind of what he's looking at after the midterms, very isolated, and he will be impeached. He may not be convicted in the Senate, although it might be close after the midterms, but he will go through the rigmarole of the impeachment hearings. And they have unlike the first term, where the two impeachments were basically fabricated, very weak cases, mainly to do with Ukraine, one of them, and the other to do, I believe, with January 6th. Now you have actual hard evidence for corruption, insider trading, graft, nepotism regarding his family, plus the poly market trades and all this manipulation. I mean, so there's no shortage of, attack vectors that his opposition have to really make life uncomfortable for him during the impeachment process, and also all of his allies and family too. So many of them are going down, and that's a fact. And I think for him, he said something. Last thing I'll say is, and it's worth pointing out, while he was gloating about his ballroom project the other day to the media, he made a statement that nobody heard before. He said, I won't be able to enjoy all of this ballroom and the bunker underneath and all that. I'm not going to, because I'll be gone by the time it's finished. I'll be out of office. He never openly said he would be out of office before. There was always this lingering idea that Steve Bannon and others were putting out that Trump is going to get his third term by changing the rules or the law or new amendment or whatever. So this is the first time Trump has admitted last week that he has no designs on a third term. So that's interesting. I'd not heard that before. I will mark that as significant, politically speaking. But it also means I think he probably feels he has enough money socked away, enough billions that he's protected, and he'll be able to sort of live a self-contained and self-sufficient, have a self-sufficient power base when he's out of office, because he's going to be attacked legally, politically. He's going to be a very unpopular figure. He's not going to be able to travel anywhere. He will be treated a lot worse than George Bush was after Bush finishes his second term. People are going to be much more hostile to Trump, not just in America. He will not be welcome anywhere in the world. The only place he'd probably be welcome is in Israel, if it exists in 5 years or whenever he's out of office. He's going to have a very hard time. He'll be treated a lot like Tony Blair was in the UK after the Iraq War. Tony Blair spent most of his time outside of the UK after the war because people were doing citizens' arrests. He couldn't go anywhere without being confronted. He was just so reviled by the British public because of the fact he lied the country into the Iraq War and then lied about it afterwards. He became the most popular, unpopular, hated political figure in British history, pretty much. So Trump's going to probably be regarded in the same way when he gets out of office, unless he has some major Damascene conversion, like converts to, I don't even know what religion he is. Nobody knows, but maybe he converts to something and, becomes a pious individual and tries to make up for all of his sins. But somehow I don't see it happening. The narcissistic shell on this guy is just too thick and hardened. I think at this point in his life, if he doesn't get it, he'll never get it. So I don't think there's any chance for reform. Much to the chagrin of those who are believing in QAnon world that Trump's going to it's all, you make it all right somehow. Trust the plan. That's what Pete Hegseth tweeted out the other day. Trust the plan. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's going to be very unpopular. All of his statues, he's rushing to erect statues. If you noticed, he's putting these things up everywhere because he knows he's not going to be able to do anything when he gets out of office. And anything he does put up is going to need 24/7 security protection because the activists and protesters are going to either deface it with graffiti or put a rope around it and pull it down. And that's just a reality. He will not be able to guard all of his monuments and statues. It will cost millions per year just to guard all of his monuments that he's put up in honor of himself while he's president, which is a weird thing. Normally, they don't do that till after you finish. You don't put your name on things like the Kennedy Center while you're president. This is not the normal tradition in America. But he's in a rush because he knows he will not have access to any of these sort of embellishments after he leaves office. So he's trying to get as much as he can done, put his name on as much as he can prior. The only thing he'll get, he's not going to get an airport. He'll get the West Palm Beach airport. It's a tiny little airport next to Jeffrey Epstein's house. That's all he's going to get, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's politically, it's quite a story. It's quite a story.
Patrick, before wrapping up, who's the most, who's the strongest figure within the Trump administration? Putting Donald Trump himself aside, we were talking about various people since this administration started its duty in the United States. We were talking about J.D. Vance. He disappeared from the scene. Tulsi Gabbard, she's gone. And many people were part of this administration. They're not there anymore. Marco Rubio, nobody, I don't think this guy has anything to do with the foreign policy of the United States. He's just following the rules of the establishment. And we have Pete Hegseth, who's somehow being the head of Pentagon and being nothing of, he's nobody in Washington, in my opinion. And he just follows the same way that Rubio is. And what it comes to some other people who are mostly behind the scene, like Stephen Miller, together with Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is not part of the administration, but when you combine Jared Kushner and Stephen Miller, they have everything, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is your understanding of that?
Well, in terms of who's the strongest, most powerful person in the administration, I think you hit the nail on the head. Long term, in terms of power, and by being behind the scenes as the eminent degree, is probably Jared Kushner. He's managed to pry away enough money through the administration, through using his clout to pry money off the Saudis, off the Emiratis, to pad his infinity investment fund. Okay, so and Kushner's parlaying that into real assets and real power internationally. He will be damaged by his Israeli associations, his closeness to Netanyahu, and also Trump. But he still remains the person with quite a lot of leverage after Trump gets out. I don't think he'll ever translate that into political power, though, although he can be a kingmaker. J.D. Vance had probably been the most promising person in the administration, but by being loyal to Trump. So the real power with Trump after Trump would be to oppose Trump in the administration. And J.D. Vance blew it, and probably because he's just too young. He's a child. He's 41 years old. In political terms, he's a child. He's a teenager. and he dresses like a teenager, and he kind of acts and talks like a teenager. So he doesn't really have any real gravitas. It's fake. Peter Thiel and his backers probably thought they could make J.D. Vance into a type of a white Obama character. That's the best way to describe Vance, is a kind of a white Obama. He's a perfect tool of the establishment because he doesn't have any actual beliefs or principles. He's just a good talker. And Obama was like that. Obama was a great talker. Nobody could talk like Obama. I mean, he was just something talented. But you could project onto Obama any type of idea or principle, and Obama could quickly shapeshift to become that. And that's what made him successful as a tool of the establishment, Obama. He would speak to the working class and relate with them because he would put on a ghetto kind of African-American accent, and then he would shift into something more sophisticated like a minute later if he's talking to a different crowd, he's talking to Wall Street. So he was very versatile. Vance does the same thing. He tries to talk to the white, dejected Rust Belt working class, pretends he's one of them. And then he can also talk to the tech oligarchy to show his fealty to the technocracy and also Wall Street as well. But because he tethered himself so closely to Trump and was afraid to criticize Trump for fear of Trump dragging him and lambasting him publicly, because that's what Trump does to anybody that doesn't agree with Trump. And Trump says, you need to be loyal to me, even if like Trump could be out there with an automatic machine gun in the middle of Times Square and just would kill, 200 people, and all of his cabinet would be there saying, well, Trump did not actually kill anybody today. We're loyal to the president. We're sure that he was confident that he was doing the right thing, even though he could commit mass murder in front of everybody. That's how completely blinkered you have to be if you're in the Trump camp. You have to show total loyalty, even if the president is a bloodthirsty war criminal and is also lost his mind in the process. So that's the problem with Trump. He only selects people that he can manipulate to be that loyal to him. So Trump sacrifices talent, skills, and capabilities in favor of what he calls loyalty. So it's like an autocratic corporate structure. Donald Trump's the CEO, and everybody is yes sir, 3 bags full, sir. And if you can't play that game, you can't be on the team. Full stop. So that means it's not good for your political future to be in the Trump administration. So anybody that's in the Trump administration will be damaged goods in the exact same way that anybody involved with Richard Nixon in the early 70s was labeled damaged goods afterwards and had very little. They had those who did survive the Nixon administration and Watergate had to wait 20 or 30 years, 30 or 40 years before they could reemerge back into politics and have finally shed the damaged brand of Watergate and Richard Nixon. And the same will be the case with Trump. They'll have to reinvent themselves. Rubio could mount a presidential run in 2028, and I'm sure he would like to. And I'm sure that Paul Singer and the Israeli lobby have promised they will back him in that. But he did run already in 2016, and he came off as a very sophomoric and a little bit petty and not very likable and a bit sort of a squeaky operative, and he doesn't have the alpha male characteristics that I think generally America want to see, or the sort of stable person. And Rubio is very short physically as well. He has to wear lifts. He's not a big guy, much like Ron DeSantis, kind of very short. So on stage, they look short on debate stages and stuff like that. It's always problematic. It's been problematic for Mike Dukakis. I can name a whole bunch of other people that's been a problem for. And unfortunately, Americans are very superficial when it comes to image and what they want in terms of a leader. So Tulsi Gabbard, she could have, if she would have resigned last year when Trump threw her under the bus, She gave an intelligence assessment, said Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapon. Trump basically said, I don't care what Tulsi Gabbard of the CIA said or the National Director of Intelligence said. I don't care. I've got my Israeli intelligence, and they're 2 weeks away from a bomb, and we're going to attack them. So if Tulsi had resigned then, she would have set herself up for a very, very strong 2028 run.
Yeah.
But instead, she did the J.D. Vance thing and decided to show her loyalty to the president, even though she herself is complicit in war crimes by not going against what was clearly fake Israeli intelligence that was intentionally used to bypass her own office right to the desk of the president in the Oval Office. We know that from Joe Kent. Okay. Now, the person who has emerged from his cabinet with the most amount of credibility and popular support has been Joe Kent, because he left, because he didn't agree with Trump, because he didn't play the loyalty game. So he's come out, his stock has risen, Tulsi's stock has dropped, J.D. Vance stock has dropped. Rubio continues to drop, although Rubio tries to keep a distance from Trump, tried to stay away from the Iran issue for the longest time and concentrate on being viceroy of Latin America because he thought that's better for his image. But he can't, he's Secretary of State. You can't avoid the most important geopolitical flashpoint on the planet forever. And so now Rubio is being pulled back into the Iran conversation, and he's looking really bad. He's looking like he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's lying on behalf of the president. He comes off as a total hypocrite. So this is all bad for Rubio. And the other thing, Nima, is traditionally in America, Pete Hegseth is a sideshow. He will go down as a bad joke in U.S. history. That's where he's going. He'll be lucky to escape war crimes tribunals or something else, because he is a disaster. He's a failure as a defense secretary or a quote war secretary. Pete Hegseth has presided over the most amount of lost U.S. aircraft and U.S. military assets, and the absolute dumb, just complete depletion of U.S. armaments and military stock over this last 3 months, putting the U.S. in such a compromising position globally under his Defense Department, or War Department, as he calls it. That's a total failure as the head of Pentagon. So he's the worst defense secretary or war secretary in American history, the worst. And he's not qualified for the job anyway. And what did you expect when you send a boy to do a man's job? But again, Pete Hegseth playing the loyalty game. If he had gone against the president, he'd be a hero, you see. So it just shows you the corruption of this Trump-style hierarchy, how it doesn't serve the interests of any of these people. Stephen Miller can just jump ship at any time, by the way. He's an Israeli lobby selection in the cabinet. So he's a free agent. He can just sidestep and walk off and continue doing something else if he wants to. Maybe he'll go back and actually get a law degree, which he actually doesn't have, as far as I can tell. He was the head of America First Legal, doesn't have a law degree, but that's typical for Trump. He has very unqualified people doing jobs that are way above, their pay grade, and they're promoted way above their level of incompetence. But that's just typical of the Trump world. So yeah, I think if there's one other person that might fare well out of this, I'm not sure. Not RFK. He's gone as well. RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is a diehard Zionist, by the way. It's embarrassing, but anyway, he's handled by Rabbi Shmuley Botish as his sort of Israeli handler. So he made a good run for president as a Democrat, then had to go independent, and could have challenged for a good percentage of the vote just on his Kennedy name. But then Trump took him and co-opted him, like he did with Tulsi Gabbard, and stuck them into a cabinet position, HSS, Health and Human Services Secretary. So Trump took a potential political challenger to MAGA, co-opted him, stuck him into a government agency, and you can't jump from a government agency to run for president. You can't go from DNI to run for president. You can't. It's even hard enough to go from Secretary of State and run for president. And Americans will want normal politicians after Trump. So they're going to be looking for people who are governors, who are from the Senate, maybe even from Congress. Maybe they'll want to see somebody who's more representative of the people, like a Thomas Massey or Marjorie Taylor Greene. Maybe they want to see more democratic accountability and look at that in their career. Gavin Newsom as well. These are people that might have more broad appeal after this experiment of having a reality TV actor, which is kind of Trump's like Zelensky in that sense. You know, he comes from television. America's probably going to be, they may be wanting something more stable, something they can bank on, a governor, a senator, somebody who's not attached to Trump. That will, I think, that will offer the most amount of appeal to the broadest amount of electorate. By the time Trump gets done, you'll be hard pressed to find anybody that will admit ever supporting him in a serious way. I mean, that's how bad he's going to be in terms of a tarnished political brand after 3 years. So from 2028, by the time we get to 2028, people are just going to be like, God, we can't wait. It'll be like Biden. Just everyone's going to be looking at their watch, saying, oh, another week, he'll be gone. You know, that's how things are going to go. So he had a chance to anoint an heir apparent, but the irony is, the paradox of Trump world is, because you're loyal to Trump, that's going to be your undoing politically. Mm-hmm. Simple. If Rubio went against him and had a major fallout, challenged him, and but Rubio can't, because Rubio has already played his hand as a warmonger, and so Rubio can't reposition himself as somebody who believes in international law credibly, or somebody who cares about people, because he clearly has demonstrated that he's none of those things in the first 18 months of this administration. So I think he's toast. But what the Israeli lobby are very clever. What they do is they will go to, before any election, by the way, this could be a Senate, could be a Congress election, they'll go to both Democrat primary candidates, both Republican. They'll back them all. They'll promise them the world, all of them. And they know that whoever wins, they're going to have their person in place. And so they promised Rubio support in 2028. They promised Tulsi Gabbard support in 2028. And they've also promised J.D. Vance support in 2028. And a few others as well, probably Ted Cruz as well. So they've already sort of backed all their horses, and whoever else comes up, they'll do the same. AOC on the Democratic side. So that's how they operate. And so each person believes they're going to have the backing of this powerful force. And that keeps them on message. It keeps them behaving. It keeps them staying within the acceptable lines of political discourse, because they know as long as they think they still have a chance for the next election, because the Adelsons or the lobby, as it were, has already, is going to give them a shot, going to back them, going to write the big checks, give them the clout they need to get into power. But the problem is, Israel's made that promise to so many different people, and they're not loyal to any Republican or Democrat. The Israeli lobby, their job is to cover all bases. Yeah. That's their job, to make sure that no matter who wins, it's going to be good for Israel. That's it. So they don't care if they're green, independent, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. MAGA, not MAGA, Rhino, whatever, doesn't matter. So just bear that in mind when you look at the playing field. Once in a while, a dark horse comes in. Ron Paul, for instance, someone like that. Thomas Massey could be that dark horse. He won't be that dark, though. He's already made a huge name for himself. I give him pretty good, I give Thomas Massey as good a chance as anyone to get that 35% that you need to be viable. I think he has it. I think he's got the ability to do that. I can't see anybody else that can credibly do that, especially with the young people, the Gen Zs. Thomas Massey appeals to a lot of Gen Zs, and JD Vance doesn't. So it'll be interesting. But American politics is just a train wreck right now. It's I'm talking about it like it's real politics. It's not. It's a disaster. So we'll see how things develop. It'll be interesting to see who emerges as the big voices after the midterm elections, and that will say a lot. But in terms of Trump, his legacy and anybody attached to him, I think that's a fait accompli at this point.